Contact Protocol, Episode 2, by Disappointed Void. Engineering Shift Leader Ahmed stared at the shuttle pilot, his mouth working silently as he tried to remember how to speak. Say that again. Only a little bit less shocked, Julian glanced at the message log as if to reassure himself that he had heard what he thought he did. And there it glowed. A little green alien head icon of the Xeno Contact Protocol, along with reams of text outlining the details of the protocol and what it involved. He coughed to clear his throat before speaking again. The Xeno Contact Protocol has been activated. Chief James has also just confirmed that the ship we are heading to isn't of human origin. Ahmed blinked slowly. Oh man, why did it have to be me? Okay. So, alien vessel recovery. Great, no problem. His fingers tapped against the armrest of the flight couch, making clacking noises as the pressure gauntlet gently struck the interface terminal embedded in the armrest. Suddenly he froze. Didn't they crash out of hyperspace after hitting interference from our mining drone skip drives? His eyes shot over towards the pilot. Julian, please tell me they don't think we intentionally pulled them out of hyperspace and stranded them here. Julian took in a breath to reply, but then Ahmed groaned and flung his helmeted head back into the headrest. And now we're flying in a shuttle to finish him off. Julian took in another breath, but was cut off again, this time by a chuckle from the other person in the cockpit, Dr. White, leader of the medical team. I'm sure the captain is doing all she can to ensure we aren't blasted out of space by ray guns, Ahmed. I am more worried about how long we're going to have to sit in quarantine when we get back after potentially being exposed to who knows what while we're over there. A wry smile took some tension out of the air as he continued. I don't know about you, but I didn't even bring a pack of cards. Ahmed slightly deflated shook his head. Damn, I didn't even think of that. Dr. White chuckled again. Although I suppose never having to pay for a drink ever again, after having your picture blasted across every news channel in human space as the first person to make contact with an alien race, might make up for it. Julian grinned as Ahmed pursed his lips at the prospect of a lifetime of free drinks. Okay, I've reconsidered. It is my solemn duty as representative of humanity and lead engineer of this rescue flight to extend a hand of friendship to our new alien friends. Whatever you do though, don't do a Kirk, or the captain will never let you out of quarantine, smirked Julian. A good point. Well made. Let's keep this above board and according to protocol. Speaking of which, as much as I love our yearly drills on contact protocol, we don't exactly have a manual for this. Any thoughts? Ahmed asked. Well, that's where you're wrong. We don't pay our taxes to the Human Space Administration to sit around twiddling their thumbs. Julian scrolled through the data packet and highlighted one of the numerous contact scenarios that had been flagged by the bridge crew of the Patient Anvil. He pinged it over to Ahmed and White. Potentially hostile action resulting from accidental damage to Xeno ship during rescue action. White read out. I'm kind of impressed. And also terrified that people sit around thinking of these things. Ahmed was busy reading through the initial steps. Okay, it says here to maintain steady approach, ideally along a vector which doesn't approach from the rear, using active running lights, fully open communications of the included contact message. Crew fully suited and craft atmosphere drained. That's going to be a pain to rectify. Here we go. If no communication can be established, undertake passive observation of the xenocraft condition before attempting to stabilize using minimum necessary tractor power. If craft appears to be structurally unsound, use active scanning. If too damaged for tractor, to match course and use tractors to ensure safe passage through any debris and other obstructions by clearing a flight path while attempting to raise communications. Julian nodded as he checked the seals and indicators of his pressure suit, while keying the alert for imminent pressure loss. Several moments later, the passengers all signaled ready for depressurization, and he triggered the atmosphere pumps. As the air was whisked out of the cockpit and into the storage tanks, Julian adjusted course to something he hoped looked friendlier and triggered the recommended communication package. Okay, all set, he announced. ETA 12 minutes, since we'll be taking a nice slow vector and we'll be coasting the last bit due to hyperspace interference in the mining zone, and we can't use our skip drives. Back on the patient anvil, Captain Rosalind had been watching the shuttle race along the boundary of hyperspace before changing course and slowing down in accordance with the contact protocol. She nodded slowly as Kim relayed the shuttle's pilot's confirmation that the contact protocol's activation was understood. Very good. Have you been able to work out where it came from and where it might be going? Kat nodded. It isn't 100%, but a straight line approximation has it coming from somewhere near the southern edge of the Junai Nebula. We don't have anything out that way as far as I know. We are pretty much the closest human presence by a considerable margin. As to where it was going? Unsure, there isn't too much in the direction it was headed, other than open space, until you hit the next spiral arm over. Not that we have the right sensors for it, but I can't see anything else moving or emitting signals in either direction. Thanks, Kat. Amy, what can you tell me about the makeup of that ship? Is there anything that might cause us trouble? Amy looked up from the complex spectrographic plots, gravimetric data, and reams of other information that had been pouring in since they realized the ship wasn't human-made. Well, it's mainly non-metallic on the outside, some kind of carbon lattice. Overall, the ship seems to be pretty light for its size. Approximate mass of 400 kilotons. Main axis length 300 meters, diameter 100 at the widest point. Energy readings are still unstable, but seem to be mostly emanating from the center of the widest point of the ship. Radiating some significant heat, but that might be shedding of energy from their translation. That's about it at the moment. Thanks, Amy. James, threat assessment. James pursed his lips. Nothing concrete, Captain. I can't see any obvious weapon ports, or indeed any openings at all. There is a weak EM field around the ship, but it looks like it might just be a charged particle screen. No shields up yet. Though they might still be recovering from the crash translation back in the real space, and have not gotten around to it yet. No signs of any thrusters or any other types of propulsion, so I would guess it relies on some kind of skip drive for the majority of its in-system movements, much like we do. Obviously unusual for a ship that small. Well, unusual for a human ship anyway. Not much else I can say yet. We might have more once the shuttle can get a closer look. And how are we doing on the drones, Miles? Miles grimaced. I've shut down as many as I could, but several hundred are not responding to commands and still have active drives. Their communication systems must have been fried. Most of them were far enough away to not get destroyed outright by the translation discharge, but not far enough away they did not get singed. We will need to pilot drones out manually to deactivate them ideally. Although, if needed, we could use the lasers to just fuse them. But I would only recommend that in an emergency. Great. Thanks, Miles. Leave them for now and we can attempt recovery later, once our mystery guest has hopefully been rescued. Internally she added, and hopefully avoid starting Interstellar War 1 in the meantime. Rosalind sighed. her racing mind calming somewhat as the familiar pattern of the ship and the crew brought her back down to deck. She flipped through several screens of text outlining the closed scenario for what they had unwittingly set in motion, and the recommended way of charting her course through to a positive outcome. Always in one corner of her display, she kept the visual and sensor feed of the alien ship and slowly approaching shuttle.